With a question for both. If you were fans of the book before you started production, if you got to know it beforehand?
Never read it. No, I'm joking. I read it. Like a lot of times.
I had read The Last Wish before Netflix, before I knew that Netflix was making a series out of it, and I fell in love with it.
My meeting with him was very, very brief. I was about to fall through a 15-foot hole at the time, so I was focused on something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A hole? 15 feet up?
Yes, yeah, you'll see.
Ah, great.
The interesting thing with Geralt is that he has his nature, which is one thing, and he's been that way since he was a boy, and then he's had everything he's been taught since, up until the age he is now, so we're talking almost 100 years old. And that is what he shows on the front. It's this cold, stony exterior with a very direct approach to matters in life, a very simple and direct approach to matters in life, which can often lead to brutal consequences. But on the inside, he truly does believe that the world can be a better place, and he wishes it was. And it's about those two warring natures, which try and find balance, and rarely, if ever, do.
I would say never really do. I mean, they're constantly in conflict through the entire series, and that's, to us, that's really the fun of the storytelling.
Hello, my name is Miguel Fernandez from Cine Escondite, and The Witcher has a lot of great scenes, sword fights, and I want to ask you about how did you prepare for those, and if you had some input on how those should be.
Well, I think the best way to answer this question is to reference the fight in episode 1, which was with Wolfgang Stegemann, his team, and that we, the three, Wolfgang, myself, and his team, actually designed those fights because the episode 1 fight is so important to set the tone of who Geralt is. And for me, it's always been vital that a character exists within the action, that it's not just fantastic writing with acting and then you have a completely separate action beat which feels disconnected and disjointed from the story, and then you go back into the acting stuff afterwards. For Wolfgang, myself, and Lauren, it was very important that the story continues through the action from the last bit of dialogue all the way through to the end of the episode. And in that, there is a lot of prep you have to do because you have to design each moment of the fight. That fight in episode 1 has 2 separate sections, maybe 3. The first section contrasts massively to the second section. You see, I don't want to spoil anything, you'll see. But it shows the different sides of Geralt. And ultimately, that thing we were talking about earlier, which is he makes decisions which you may or may not agree with. And for me, that was the most important thing. We did a lot of prep for that. Just my prep for that was designing the fight with Wolfie. And when it comes to the other fights, when it came to my general preparation for sword fighting, I've handled a sword before in movies like Immortals. I'm not a stranger to a sword. And I was working with Vladimir Furdik, who showed me, ran me through all the basics again, and so I found my feet again, basically. And then a lot of my instinct took over. And the schedule was so tight with the show that a lot of the choreography I was learning via a video while I was getting my wig put on in the morning, and then I would shoot that fight that day. And so a lot of it is instinct. I mean, you obviously have to be safe, and it was always rehearsing for an hour or 2 beforehand of shooting, but a lot of it came by instinct. Yeah. I was initially a fan of the games, PC gamer for most of my life, and then when I had my first meeting with Lauren actually informed me that the games was based on the books. Like a lot of people out there, I did not know that. And because I saw the book covers, and all the book covers were based on the game's art, and so I just figured it was novels which were based on game stories, instead of little side novels. They are not. Sapkowski wrote the books first. And when I read those, I realized the depth of the world and where a lot of CG Projekt Red's genius came from. It came from this world that Sapkowski built. And it's extraordinary. I love those books. I've read most of them twice. and I'm doing another read-through as well. I'm probably gonna find myself reading them a few times over the years, I'd say. And the games I've played through, well, Witcher 3, I played through 2.5 times.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, it is huge, it is huge. I'm quite efficient.
You said in an interview that you play Overwatch, is that right?
Yes.
Who do you
it's
main?
it's been a while.
Yeah.
The answer I give to that is not going to be a popular answer.
Well,
because this is
what is
probably-
your main?
This is probably the most hated character.
Oh.
When I first started playing this character, I want to defend myself. When I first started playing this
Please don't break my heart.
I probably will break your heart. I have only just got back into the game. When the game first came out, what was the rival game when Overwatch came out?
Paladins, what's it like? It's copy, I don't know.
There was two very similar games, and I
Yeah.
played the other game loads, and
Paladins.
then everyone stopped playing that game, and I was like, oh, okay, I better get into Overwatch then. And so I played Overwatch, and I got back into it just this year, and the character who I had initially picked, who was like no one picks it 'cause it's quite hard to play, and it's a support character, and now everyone hates this character because of whatever updates they had. Symmetra.
Oh
It's-
no, she's great.
Everyone hates me.
Yeah, her turrets
Yeah,
were like
I either
annoying.
can't play or I'm just on easy mode. It's like, pick a side, guys. It's not just a hero which is always going to do the right thing. The hero often does something which, even if it's right, it tends to be frowned upon enormously because, I don't know, a lot of people died in the process, and he came out fine. But everyone died, even the person he was trying to save. And so that's what I find interesting, the way he deals with that, and the way even if he's not necessarily passing on a good message immediately, you know deep down he's trying. And that's what I like about it.
I knew that I wanted to start with The Last Wish. To me, you can't tell the story of The Witcher without understanding the world of The Witcher, the continent, the politics, and basically what a monster hunter looks like and acts like. But I started with The Lesser Evil.
For me, when it came to building Geralt, or my version of Geralt, it had to exist first within Lauren's vision and with her broader lens she's bringing to the show. And so if you were to read The Last Wish, it is a book filled with Geralt talking and thinking. And so then you have the second book as well, Sword of Destiny, which is much of the same, but we have 2 other characters introduced. From the very beginning of our show, we have 3 characters. And so for me, it was about making sure the truest essence of Geralt from the books existed within that framework. We don't have the same space to have Geralt's inner monologue happen for 12 hours, which I think is the audiobook. And that's just one book. And so it was about boiling it down to an essence. If in the books you see Geralt will be talking with kings and queens very eloquently, he'll be lots of sirs and my ladies and bowing, and he does this thing which is he's making them feel comfortable. He knows how to talk to them. And we don't necessarily have that sort of space within an hour's episode. So it was about making Geralt this very direct, stony character. And that's why I chose the voice as well. Because when you speak less, the voice has to carry a certain gravitas. And within that basic box that I've built of the character, the boiled down essence of the character, I can move from there, and in relationships, whether it be with Yennefer or Jaskier or other characters, you see the other aspects of Geralt which are more present in the books through one story, but it's through a constant inner monologue. I don't deliberately try and make a character my own. Because of the iconic characters I've played, I'm actually a huge fan of those characters, so I'm not deliberately trying to put my own spin on it. If anything, I'm actually just trying to be as true as possible to the source materials that I'm loyal to. And so it's not, there's no deliberate effort that goes into making it different. I think it just happens that way naturally. Whether it be Sapkowski's writing, whether it be Lauren's writing, whether it be Doug Cockle's performance in the game, whether it be my performance in the show, they're all going to be different because we're all different people and we all come from different places emotionally when we're creating these characters. Other characters I'd like to play that are iconic. I'm a fan of history, so characters like Julius Caesar or Alexander the Great. Might be a touch of Alexander now though. I think he died at 32, so the ship may have sailed.
Excited, we obviously just got picked up for a season 2, which is very exciting. And that's where my brain is right now. You know, as a writer, I will take as many seasons as I can get, as many seasons as the source material will give to me. That being said, I also just have to focus on making the season in front of me the best, you know, possible.
For me, the growth of the character, it's all on the page in the books. The character does grow enormously and change enormously as you read the books as it goes on, and I'd very much like to follow that character path. That's not necessarily always going to be the case. Say the seasons haven't been written yet, and we never know where we're going to go with adaptations. But it's for me, it's all there, and to describe the growth in detail now might be spoilery.
Yes, please don't do that.
I would say for schedule-wise, I mean, I can do a TV show and a movie in 1 year, and yeah, I'll be busy, but I can take Christmas off, I guess. Maybe. Probably train over Christmas, sleep over Christmas.
And the cape is still on your closet.
We're talking about The Witcher today. Let's keep going.
Please, you can tell that part of the story.
Yeah, it's as soon as I heard it was being made into a show, obviously being a fan of the games at the time, I thought this is exactly the kind of thing that I want to be a part of. It's genuinely a dream come true. When playing the games, all I ever thought about was, how can I make this into a TV show or a movie? And then I heard Netflix were adapting it. I heard that Lauren was on board, and I just got my agents to call as often as possible. And agents will often, they'll put a phone call in, and then you'll wait for the response. If you don't hear anything, you assume nothing came back, or they're waiting for a call back. So each week, each day, I'll just call them again saying, just checking, you guys have called again, right? Because I don't want that to drop to the bottom of the call list.
You look a very objective-driven person. I mean, like, you set a goal and you go there all the way.
Much to, the annoyance of those around me at times.
It worked. I guess we're all here, so.
Yes. In this case, it worked, and it worked well. So yeah, it was just about being persistent. And then I believe when Lauren finally heard that, oh, by the way, there's this guy who won't stop calling, I think you should probably meet him before we run out of phone lines. And then we got to meet. We had a lovely chat about it, and Lauren said, look, at this stage, it's still such an early stage that I can't give you any kind of answer. And then it all sort of went quite quiet because they were going through their casting process, and it was 7 weeks later, something like that. 7 weeks later, I get the call and they were asking if I would audition, and I was on holiday at the time, and I was like, right, yes, where do I need to go? And we all flew to New York and met there.
All 4 of us, Henry, myself, Sophie Holland, our casting director, and Alex Zakroff, our director.
I would say I would say his weakness is it's probably his capacity to love. A witch's role is not to love. It is to kill and to get money. And they're not intended to kill people, but they often have to due to circumstance, or people just coming after them, or getting wrapped up in whatever politics a ruler has wrapped them up in. And his father figure, Vesemir, has taught him that from the very beginning. Even though I think Vesemir has a secret respect for the way Geralt is, because it's probably akin to the old ways where Vesemir came from, he still wants to protect Geralt and still has lived his own way of being the monster hunter and wanting to make sure that all you do is focus on getting money and killing monsters. Geralt doesn't. He always tries to protect the innocent as long as he feels he deems they are worthy. and always gets himself wrapped up in some kind of terrible situation where he has to commit one evil or another. I think everyone has a masculine and feminine side, and when it comes to Geralt, it's something which is locked away in him because of, you'll see. There's a bit that comes up and you'll see why it's locked away and what it all means, and there are keys to his heart, and his feminine side is definitely one of them. You asking me?
Yes.
Oh, I thought I was like, come on, Lauren, answer the question.
Why are you just staring?
Yeah.
Sorry, Harry.
Yeah. My favorite short story?
Yeah, short story.
That is a very good question. I think the first time I read the books through, it's in Sword of Destiny. I think it's the first short story in Sword of Destiny, or the second.
Yeah, first or second.
It's when Geralt is fighting a monster in a rubbish pit outside of a city, and he's actually living with Yennefer. And when I got to that portion of the stories, I felt so happy for Geralt that despite everything he had been told or heard or experienced, he actually was having this life which he's always wanted. And then all of that is torn away from him. And it was so heartbreaking for me. And as much as, I had a physical reaction when reading this book. People thought I was crazy. I was reading a book on a plane, and we're coming into land, and I was like trying to read more quickly, and literally gasped and put my hand over my mouth when that point happens in that story, which is particularly dramatic. And that's the story which affected me the most. Geralt, for example, as much as physically he may be unobtainable, humanly, he's very much obtainable. He's very much like the rest of us. He's a, you could say, morally grey character, but that puts all of us in the same box as him. Sometimes we make the right decisions, sometimes we don't, but he's always trying. And regardless of having made a poor decision, Geralt's a great example of, rather than just running down that path and sticking in the poor decision lane, he will change lanes and keep on trying to get to the right decision. And so he sets a great example for us because he's more like us than some of the other heroes who may be less obtainable.
Olá, queridos, espero que vocês tenham gostado da legenda. Já se inscreve no Megascope para continuar por dentro de todas as notícias de The Witcher, incluindo as entrevistas legendadas. Deixa aquele like e mega beijo!